We should attempt to bring nature, houses, and human beings together in higher unity. Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. Hi, my name is Alexandrea Cook, and this video is for Project 3, the Square Grid. This time every year, my family and I take a drive into the mountains by our home to watch the leaves change color. As we drive, we take in all the scenery, wildlife, and enjoy the cool breeze as the temperature changes from the hot warmth of summer into fall. This year I decided I would take a break for an hour, slow down, and just visually introspect on the sensations, feelings, and impressions about this time of year. It was nice to be able to decompress and let the paintbrush just take over, creating a visual journey of my experience. This is what resulted from the moment. I began to wonder how this could translate into my design process for Project 3.0. Taking inspiration from this painting, I began placing programs over different elements of the design, asking myself what these elements made me feel. Did they invoke a sense of movement or a sense of heaviness, stillness, and quiet? What resulted were the 9 programs you see here. As I moved from the structural elements of the design, I knew I wanted to maintain a sense of painterly artistry, keeping to the idea of painterly brushstrokes, blended colors, and textural patterns and repetitions. Drawing further inspiration from artists like Richard Serra, I knew I wanted to derive a structure from similar structural elements while serving a purpose. This developed into metallic walls that curve, creating privacy and rest, concrete seating for coolness, or wooden seating for warmth. The curve-like walls that not only break up the space but evoke visual stimulation. I also began to pay attention to the textures and colors. This was especially important to me because the colors of the painting evoked the most emotion, and I wanted to make sure that they translated over into the structure. One way I did this was by dissolving juxtaposing floor textures into each other. Much like the painting where there is a contrast between oranges, reds, and browns, so too is the floor. Another way this was achieved was by incorporating warm and cool textures like the dark metal wall, slatted wood, or rusted angular walls. Each of these textures combined with the structural value give a contrast, rhythm, and play directly into each of the programs. The entry is a really important and central element to this design. I wanted the opening to look like a dry watercolor brushstroke. The angularity of the opening is the principal element of this southern facade. As one walks through the opening, they are directed into the curved fashion where they are faced with the decision to either take rest in quiet, dark solitude, move in warmth and sunlight, or sit in outdoor relaxation with the sound of water and other outdoor elements. Other important elements of the entry walkway is the slatted wall to the west. This slatted wall allows filtration for not only the sun, but also the water elements next to it. As one walks through the hallway, the waterfall structure noises come through the slatted rib-like wall and bounce off the copper, creating a unique experience. Light was also a very integral element of this design. In this section, we can see how both artificial light and direct light affect the user's experience. The artificial light bounces off the curved and darker structures within the heavier part of the building, while the skylight on the opposite side of the building draws on direct sunlight. More sunlight at the bottom of the building continues this theme. In sections A, B, and C, we get a closer look at how each of these programs are achieved through the elemental themes throughout the structure. In section A, we can see how the light comes through the lower portion of the building. The curved, sculpture-like metal walls create a small nook for the solitude, while blocking out the sound from the rest of the building. The curvature of the walls adds to the painterly style that the building is inspired by. In section B, we can see how the user experiences the light and sound from the outdoor portion of the building. As light filters through the slatted, rib-like structure, it creates unique shadows that create repetition and ambiance. While the light filters through the slats, so too does the sound from the water feature next to it, really focusing on light, sculpture, sound, and filtration. In section C, we can see that the relationships between all these 3 spaces. We notice the sculpture-like structure in the background alongside the natural light of the windows, while also noticing that this space is meant for quiet rest. There is also no windows on this side of the building, and this is done intentionally. As we look at the structure in this isometric view, we can begin to see how the water structure interacts with the slatted structure that it surrounds. As light filters through the slats of wood, a unique pattern is displayed on the water and the ground. Wood is also an important element of this side of the building. Where the other side is concrete and metal, this side is outdoors with wood and water, furthering the juxtaposition of both sides of the building. In isometric B, we can further see how the shadows play an important role within the building. We can also see how another water feature in this outdoor courtyard space, alongside the curvature of the wall, and wooden seating creates not only a sense of solitude, but a pleasing contrast with each element interacting with each other. Finally, as we move into the render perspectives of the sections, we are able to get an overall view of the programs and how viewers can interact with the space. In Section A, we have rest, as a person sits meditating. In Section B, we have a person stepping down from the bridge that goes across the water feature. We also notice that we are able to clearly see into the entry and once again notice how shadow interacts with the space. Finally, in Section C, we can see how the light and the dark of both sides work separately and are broken up into the sculptural divide between them. Overall, this design really focused on structural elements inspired by a painting about fall. This was accomplished by using sculptural elements like curved metallic walls, juxtaposing textures like wood, concrete, rusted metal, shadows, and water features that further the idea of filtration, movement, and stillness. All this from the inspiration of fall and the feelings, color, and sensations that it evokes.